What's happening, everybody? In this video here, we are going to talk about how to use the hatching technique to show shading on a portrait. And so, we're going to use spacing, how far apart we put our hatch mark, and we're going to use pressure. And you could use different types of pencils, which will of course affect the shading. You can smudge a little bit. But we are going to mix things up, and I'm going to show you how to do it with words. So your hatch marks will be words. We are going to be drawing Arthur Ashe tonight and creating wonderful shadows on these two sides of his face and kind of around his nose, on your chin, and on your shoulder, places the shadows are going to fall. And we're going to use his name and some interesting facts about him. So we're going to do something just like that. So let's get into the creation station and check it out. Okay, so to start things off here, we have selected Arthur Ashe. And I did that because I'm working on a project with a class of mine where we are looking for somebody famous or less than famous from Virginia or somewhere in the surrounding area. So I chose Arthur Ashe for this one because he would be recognizable, somebody who is going to be fairly easy to draw, and the shadows were going to come out pretty well because we have lots and lots of pictures. So here we started with the nose, and we've added the eyes and some large glasses. And if you were to do this drawing on your own, you might want to just do the whole thing in pencil. Here I've used Sharpie to make it much easier for you to see the basic features in the video and point out where some of the shadows are going to go. So we've got the glasses here. We're going to add the side of the face. We're going to work our way down to our chin and then up into our mouth. And then what we're going to add after that will be our neckline and our ears and our hairline and our shoulders, whatever else fills onto the paper. So we're going to wrap this one on up, and then we'll start talking about the words that we're using and the shading techniques that we're going to do. Okay, so the first thing to do is to identify where you're going to see the shadows, and we're definitely going to see them around the ear where our hair would cover over, side of our face would cover over, the folds in our ear would cover over and create shadows. The left and right sides of the face where it curves around are going to have shadow, and the front of the face is where the light's going to hit. So that will create shadows under the nose, around the mouth, the cheeks, the chin, underneath the chin, around the neck, and on the shoulders. And then things like glasses are going to create shadows on the face. And then the kind of shape of your skull around your eyes is going to create shadows around your eyes. So you can sort of start to imagine the areas where the shadows are going to build up. And for this example, I was looking at a picture, and so it was really easy to identify them. So I'm starting with the darkest area that I found on the face, which was the right side near the ear. So what we're going to do here is we're going to zoom in a minute so you can see a little bit about what we're doing with the words, and then we'll talk some more about hatching. Okay, so hopefully what you got from that zoomed in section that we just worked on was it was darker below the glasses by the ear. So what I did was I took the name Arthur Ashe and I wrote it very close together to the point where it was even overlapping at times to create a really dark area. And I pressed firmer on my pencil. As it moved up, the shadow got a little bit lighter, and you can see it gets lighter towards the top of the head. What I did was press lighter. I let the letters of the word be farther apart. I didn't overlap them as much, and I made them a little bit larger in size too, not really small and clumped together. During the little folds in the ear, I wrote the word very small so that they would follow this small little line. So you'll notice the size was changing throughout. And now I'm sort of repeating on the left side a more consistent version of the shadow that I did on the right because of the way the face is turned. It starts a little dark and it gets lighter as it goes across towards the middle. So we'll pause and zoom in again so you can see some of the detail in that. Okay, so at this point you can see the shadow is starting to come together. The highlights are all around the center area of the face, the center of the eyes, the upper parts of the cheeks, and kind of around the mouth, as it would look in real life with the light hitting down on the front of the face and kind of casting a shadow towards the side. Now, the interesting thing about this is up close, it might look a little bit weird and funky, and it becomes a little bit interesting and artistic in that you're starting to be able to see the words and sort of put the story together, or in this case, I'm just using the individual's name, but you'll see I'll start to modify that as we get more into the work. So you can get as creative or as simple as you want with the choosing of the subject matter that you decide to put into your work. But since I'm trying to teach you a technique right now, I'm sticking simple and just using the name and repeating it. Now, as we get farther away and we zoom out, it just becomes a shadow. And so it's kind of the work of art takes on two different properties in that it tells a story and it also is representational. And from different viewing perspectives, you get more or less of those two things. So we'll zoom out here in a minute when we finish working on the neck, and you can start to get the full effect of that. Okay, so one of the great things about hatching that you can see here is on the right side, I went back and added more. So if you're not happy with the way your hatching looks, it probably needs to be darker in one area or have a little bit more of a light area, kind of transitioning it to the lightest spot. I'm also going back down to the neck and adding a little bit more light areas to create more of a fade with my dark. And if you look closely at the sort of mustache area above the lip, I've spread the words out very far apart and slightly overlapped them and made them a lot bigger than everywhere else to show sort of like these little shadow areas above there where there maybe would have been like a hint of maybe a mustache or a 5 o'clock shadow, just to give that face more of a realistic feel in that area. Around the nose, I went very tight and very dark because there'd be a dark shadow right around the nose, and it helped to define the area around the nostril. So that can be a great way to use the technique as well. So now we're going to finish up the face, and then we're going to do some interesting stuff up in the hair where we're actually going to take some notes before we start working on our design. So we'll point that out when we get to it. Okay, so here we are in the hair, and I'm going to start taking some notes about Arthur Ashe. And the first word that comes to mind is legacy, and then we have activist, and the next word that we're working with is going to be sportsman, and then, of course, Wimbledon. And we're going to work across on the other side on the right to Boulevard, thinking of Arthur Ashe Boulevard, Richmond for Virginia. And then we're going to throw in something about the tennis court area being near Maymont. We're going to put Maymont. And then right down at the bottom, we might as well throw in tennis. So what's happening here is all those words are going to get jammed together and repeated to make the hair. So what we're doing is we're just overlapping as much as possible. And for this one, when I finish up Richmond, you'll see, and I start hitting toward Wimbledon, then we're going to change to the word Wimbledon, and it's going to create a wonderful dark textured hair. So at this point, we're going to speed it up a little bit so you can watch the process go from one side to the other and wrap it up. Hope y'all enjoy. All right, so here we are at the end for now. Always sign your work so you can give yourself credit as the artist, or if you collaborate, get both names on, and then it is helpful to give your work a title so you have something to refer back to. So for this one, we're going to call it simply Ash, and that's our artwork for tonight. Hope everybody has a wonderful time practicing this and never stop drawing.